Ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's do this. Welcome, everyone, to the Baker's Ed podcast. I'm Dina Hamed, and today I have the honor and privilege of welcoming Josie and Nickey, owners and operators of Cake and Loaf Bakery in Hamilton, Ontario. These two have done so much, from starting their business from the ground up, participating in numerous competitions and challenges and winning, doing charity work, community work, and serving Hamilton some of the most delicious, mouth-watering treats that you can imagine. They've also worked very hard to commit themselves to paying their employees a living wage. They've braved the pandemic, opened a second location, had to say goodbye to it. So they have so much experience and insight to share with us today, and I am very honored to welcome you both. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. So, let's dive right into the questions. Maybe talk a little bit about, I know it's a long history and full of so many ups and downs. I thank you so much for sending me that full introduction to the book. It was amazing. And actually, that's something I wanted to shout out to. Nickey and Josie have written their first cookbook. It's called Cake and Loaf. And I will include, all of the links and everything for you guys to nab one in the description of this podcast episode. So, how did you guys get started?
Yeah, so we actually met at Niagara College during the apprenticeship baking course, so level one. And we kind of hit it off coming from both of us coming from Hamilton, having that common ground. We didn't hang out too much, I would say. It was kind of just like in passing with a bunch of other girls that were in the class with us. And upon leaving Niagara College, we both attended George Brown College at different times, but we kind of lost touch. And how many years would you say passed? Like 4 or 5?
3, yeah. It was 2007 when we reconnected.
Yeah, and we reconnected on Facebook. I actually sought Josie out on Facebook, couldn't find her. And then I tried again and I was like, ooh, there she is. And essentially had one coffee date and kind of put our dreams out there. And we're like, oh, this is kind of similar. We should maybe, do you want to do this? Like literally one coffee at a local coffee shop. So yeah, and everybody's like, what's happening? Like everybody in my life is like, what's going on? Like this is happening, and it happened.
Yeah, it was entrepreneurial love at first sight.
Yeah,
That's
first coffee date anyway.
Yeah. You have to admit you must have been scared, because it sounds like for the most part you guys were more like acquaintances than friends, and then to just dive right into starting a business together, that's like unheard of.
Yeah, that's essentially how it actually went. We did hang out a few times, obviously, over that period, just to like feel each other out, see if we could work compatibly. We actually set to making pierogies for our first kind of like intro to each other. Like we went out, bought ingredients, organized it, created everything, ate it all, and we were like, okay, seal the deal.
Yeah,
And started looking for locations after that, really.
that's
Yeah, we
amazing.
purchased the bakery building in, I think it was June 2008. So it had been like less than a year between when we had the coffee date and when we decided, yeah, okay, we're going to buy this building. And we also, we renovated that whole building together. So it was really like partnership by fire. It was like, okay, I don't really know you, but we have these shared goals, and we had this baby to take care of, right? It was very much like we were both so invested in this project that that was like the most important thing to both of us, and that really brought us together. And then we renovated buildings. We learned all these new skills. We tried all these things we'd never done. We heard a lot of no's, a lot of red tape, which was just like more of a challenge for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was all worth it.
I can imagine. Like I was, talking a lot to Summer while she was, you guys know Summer too, a dessert.
Yeah, she worked for us briefly.
Yeah, exactly. And she was, she's going through that right now, opening her first location. So when I was reading your introduction, I could imagine all the struggles and all the red tape you have to go through, because it could be really challenging to get things done in Hamilton,
Yeah,
the
and I
city.
think in Hamilton at the time, like a lot of things have changed in food in Hamilton in the past decade, and people were really negative about not all the people, obviously we had a lot of support as well, but several people were really negative about what we were doing and the kind
Right.
of price point we were looking to be at.
Mm.
And we just didn't have the same food culture. So we didn't have anyone that we could ask. Like really it was Detour gave us so much business advice when we first opened.
That's awesome.
But there wasn't a lot of other like small bakeries that we could ask, for example.
Right. You guys are like one of the first, in the city. Especially
Kind
in
of a
the
new
area
wave,
that
yeah.
you are. Yeah, in that wave, that for sure. What were you guys studying at George Brown when you met up again?
We actually went separately. Josie went for chef training, and
Mm.
I decided to take the first level apprenticeship over again, actually.
Oh.
Because in my mind, I was like, oh, George Brown, Toronto, more cutting edge. So I
Mm,
did a second run, and then I finished out all the way to patissier.
mm.
And Josie and I didn't really cross paths, and at that point of our lives
No.
at George Brown.
Did you get your red seal, Nickey?
No, I didn't. I thought about it, but
Mhm.
at that point, we had opened the bakery, and I was like, okay, focus has shifted.
Right.
And I mean, I've reevaluated it and thought about it, but I don't know. I don't really need to acquire it, I feel, at this point.
Right. And especially because from what I understand, only because Cake and Loaf was one of the bakeries I was told I could do my apprenticeship at when I was first looking, for somewhere to go. And so from what I understand that you guys still have that status that like a Red Seal certified baker patissier would have in training apprentices. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we've earned that through like experience in the field, not
Okay.
through the Red Seal certification.
Right. And if you don't mind me asking, who kind of like says that you have enough of the experience and so there you go, you can train apprentices?
I think
I
that
don't remember what
was,
that process was like.
yeah.
We went
I
through a process, but it seems like it
Right.
was a long
Yeah.
time ago. I don't remember the details.
Okay, well if you ever do remember, yeah, we could just table that and
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
can you
yeah.
can let me know for sure. Why is Cake and Loaf committed to paying your workers a living wage?
Well, as small business owners and entrepreneurs, we do work alongside our employees on the regular, a lot during the seasonal holidays. So we really know what it takes to work amongst everyone, as well as like all the hard work it entails.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally, there was no other option other than paying living wage, because we wanted to make sure everyone felt secure in their job and was able to have a work-life balance.
Right. And what's the living wage in Hamilton?
So right now
What are
it's
we?
I think it's 1685 right now. We should probably double check that. The last time I checked, I'm pretty sure it was 1685. Annually,
Right.
we go through and we check.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, most of our employees make well above
Mhm.
the
The
living
living
wage,
wage.
like
Right.
unless it's a new hire
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think like fundamentally living wage should be the minimum wage. I mean, when we heard about it in the first place and we were like, okay, so it's a calculation of what you need to live in a community and it's your basic needs being met, like
Mm-hmm.
transportation, a bed. Like those are not extreme things. That's like what every human being deserves in a developed society.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's not just our employees who deserve a living wage, right? It's everyone who works deserves a living wage.
And how hard was it starting a brand new business to be able to do that? Were you able to do that right away, or is it something you had to work your way up to, being able to provide
So
that?
we weren't, we weren't able to do it right away. Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Nickey. You can talk.
Yeah. So it was a gradual build. It was a
Mm-hmm.
calculated build to get to that point. We had to incrementally raise certain products, or if not the entire product line, so we could supplement having living wage. And that was 2015 when we
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we first,
officially
yeah.
announced it. Yeah. And I mean, we were very transparent with it, with all of our marketing and all of our statements to our clients and the public. And
Mm-hmm.
it was, I don't think we got much pushback. A lot of people understood, and we brought a lot of attention to the living wage platform for Hamilton.
Right.
Yeah, I'd say our customers were largely super supportive. Like some of them didn't know what living wage was, so it was like a chance to educate them. But it's like it was our frontline employees telling them about living wage and about how it affects their lives personally. It's very
Right.
difficult for people to then turn around and be negative about that, right? That
Yeah.
would be awful rude. So I think that helps too when it's the person who's directly benefiting. It can like help educate.
Right. And so for the price points at Cake and Loaf, is that a reflection of that commitment, and or is it also a reflection of anything else? And I know in terms of the quality of the product, I'm sure. But please, if you could maybe clarify that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think we calculate our pricing pretty much the way most bakeries do. So you've got like your cost of goods input, and you've got your cost of labor input, and then your overhead. So our cost of goods is higher because we use local companies, but we use small companies too. So for example,
Right.
we get our eggs directly from a family farm. They're raised by the two girls on the farm. It's a very niche business. We are paying as much as we would for more than for grocery store eggs, really.
Right.
But it's really important for us where those eggs come from and that we are directly helping a farming family. So sometimes our cost of goods are higher than other bakeries. Our cost of labor is higher than other bakeries. And then our overhead's probably the same as everyone else's, right? I mean,
Right.
rent's expensive. There's
So
all the
why
other
do you
things included in that.
yeah. So why do you think other businesses might not, make that same commitment to living wage?
I think there's a lot of factors.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Nickey, go ahead.
No, I was going to say there's a lot of factors to those choices, and each business is unique in what decisions they make for their business. So
I think sometimes it's priorities. Like you do have to prioritize it, right? It's not something that happens by accident in a
Right.
business.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it was always important. So we built it into our business plan. I think for a lot of bakery owners, they're probably overwhelmed. Like they don't have time to think about how they're going to implement a living wage when they're just trying to deal with like the increasing cost of sugar or something.
Yeah.
So I think if it was more kind of industry standard, if there was resources out there to help people implement it, that would definitely help some other businesses.
What would those resources look like?
I mean, for us, it was in terms of developing like pay scales that made sense for different positions, really understanding the living wage and why it's important, educating employers about the positive impacts to your business. So like we have reduced turnover, we have increased loyalty. We also have employees that are very invested in making sure we stay profitable because they know they will get raises. When we stay profitable, their wages increase directly every single time.
Right.
And because we built that trust, like they really do treat it like their money, right? Because it is.
Yeah.
It's also a matter of, are you creating jobs or are you creating careers? Like kind of that mentality.
Right. Yeah. And is there a ladder to climb at Cake and Loaf? Let's say I'm a baking student fresh out of Niagara College and I want to come work at your bakery and I want to make a career out of this in this industry. Is there a ladder to climb there?
I'd say most definitely. And also it can be a skill-based ladder building, more or less. Like if you want to get more into cakes, then we're definitely open to shifting people into different departments. If you want to learn bread, sadly, we're not doing bread anymore, but when there was a time people wanted to learn bread, we focus on that. But there's definitely ways we can help you grow and achieve your goals within the company.
Right.
We love co-op students. I think co-op is a really important part of like a practical trade like culinary. So a lot of our employees have started as co-op students who've then stayed on and been promoted to manager, or now we have 2 employees running the whole show at Cake and Loaf. Like we've stepped back and we've promoted these amazing people who've been with us for years. So yeah, there's hopefully always somewhere up to go.
That's awesome. And do you guys also take on apprentices, students who are going through the apprenticeship stream? Have you done that before?
Yep. So we've primarily, it's been like Humber apprentices actually. And quite a few of our employees are from Humber and still are with us.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm here. Sorry.
It's okay.
No problem. And with me personally, I am a product of the apprenticeship program.
Right.
With sticking through that and working my way through different bakeries and different businesses and learning the ropes. Yeah, all of that was great intel into the baking world. And obviously it stuck and it helped me want to pursue further.
Right. And so, because a lot of people these days, when they go to school for baking and pastry arts, they're going through the 1 to 2 year college certificate programs, right? And so, as somebody who's gone through the apprenticeship stream, and now you have people, employees who are apprentices from Humber coming in, do you find any difference in the training of those two?
Of the college level versus the apprenticeship level?
Yeah, like in terms of yeah, what like once they've completed or even once they're going like while they're going through that, do you find a difference between the technical knowledge or anything really or the skills that that employee brings to the table when they come from the 1 to 2 year college certificate programs or versus the apprenticeship stream?
I feel like Josie probably has more experience with that because I haven't worked firsthand with any of the like the pastry team. So yeah,
I just don't know. Like, I don't know that that's ever happened because, to be honest, what used to happen is when we first opened, every single employee we signed up as an apprentice because we do really believe in the apprenticeship program. So if you came to us as an employee and you were a great baker but you've never been to school, like we signed you up right away. So most of the people who completed apprenticeships like completed them with us, and so we trained them. Whereas when people came with college diplomas, they already had them when they arrived to us. So I don't think I could like compare apples to apples there.
Right.
But I believe that the apprenticeship stream is a better stream. Like I believe, first of all, I mean, there's financial support from the government, which I don't know a single student who can't benefit from that. And I do think the combination of like practical employment experience is really important in a kitchen.
Right.
But Nickey, you were talking about this yesterday in another another interview we're doing, is that like the standards aren't always there for apprenticeships. So some employers, you know, just kind of want to sign the paperwork and they don't really put you through the paces of making maybe like a complicated ice cream product or something, right? That they don't necessarily make. So we'd love to see the apprenticeship program, you know, better funded and include some maybe different training opportunities maybe through the colleges. When you have an employer who like genuinely doesn't make some of those things, it can be really hard.
Agreed. Yeah, that's very true because it depends on, you know, where you end up. I'm, you know, I'm going through the apprenticeship program right now and there are some skills that I just won't be able to learn, you know, where I am. And so I kind of have to take it upon myself to find those opportunities, me as the student or the apprentice in this situation. The onus is on me to go out and seek somewhere the opportunity to learn ice cream. Ice cream is actually one of the ones that's missing for me. The frozen desserts. Yeah. I mean, we do some frozen desserts, but ice cream is one of those, is the number one that's missing for me still. And I need to find it from somewhere and have, you know, a chef sign off on that skill in my logbook, you know. And so I agree with you, but I think that that onus of, you know, going out and trying to find that opportunity, it shouldn't all be on the apprentice because that's very difficult to do, you know. So
and it encourages people to fudge it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's almost impossible to find that opportunity, I mean, that's puts people in a difficult position.
Yeah. And so it'll be between, do we keep that on the standard do we keep that in the standard logbook or are people just gonna, you know, sign off even if you haven't done it type of deal?
But I'd love to see the colleges set up like little online courses that you could attend or something, right? And like from all over Ontario, all over Canada or whatever. I do think those are skill sets people want to have. But yeah, so I guess the answer is I love apprenticeship programs. I think they are
it needs
the
an
preferred
update.
method of training. It needs more funding. Education needs more
funding, more updates. Yeah.
Well, there's
an overhaul.
I agree 100%. And you might be happy to hear that the apprenticeship, the Baker Patissier and Baker Apprenticeship programs are going through something called harmonization, and it has already started. I don't know exactly what harmonization is. I'm trying to get in contact with someone, I want to interview them about that and ask them exactly what harmonization means. Because right now, the way that I understood it when we talked about this at a panel discussion at the Bakery Showcase just this past April, we were talking about, the apprenticeship stream and the college stream. And from what I understand is that the apprenticeship stream is going through a harmonization, but the college stream is, staying the way that it is because it's up to every college and or every province to offer whatever they offer through the college, right?
Yeah.
And their own ministries of educations work with them to figure that out. So if most of our students are going through the college programs and the apprenticeship program is the one getting the harmonization, I'm just curious as to how much is that really going to benefit us at the end of the day? Do you know what I mean? Because from what I understand, Niagara College, where we all went, had that apprenticeship program built into it, right? They don't have that anymore.
Oh.
It's not there. And so I had to go to school and do the 1 to 2 year college certificate program, and then get in contact with the Ministry of Education, get them to evaluate what I did, and then they deem that equivalent to levels 1 and 2 of the apprenticeship program. I'm still missing level 3.
And you had to pay full price for your education
And I had
instead
to
of
pay
having
full
government
price.
support, right?
That's
Which is
exactly.
like, that's a huge barrier for a lot of people.
Yes, it is. And so it's a huge barrier, and I'm finding that it's people are opting to just go to the 1 to 2 year college programs, and they're not going to the doing the apprenticeship stream anymore. So what I would love to see is that the colleges bring back, the option to be an apprentice through the college certificate programs. Just be like, if you do this, you'll get levels 1 and 2. Done. Like that's all that really needs to happen,
Yeah.
And
just keep the equivalency.
Exactly. I'm not sure how that does happen, but I don't know. That's what the podcast is for, right? Trying to shed light on all the little holes so that we can fix them. But let's say someone is coming for an interview and they have the red seal. How important is that to you guys as employers?
Not as important as the practical interview.
Yeah, not as important, honestly.
And why do you think that it's not as important? Can you articulate a little bit as to why?
I think it shows great dedication. Like getting your red seal, just like any academic accomplishment, like it shows dedication and it shows follow through. They took a lot of time to do that. I don't mean to minimize it completely, but what I mean is it means nothing until you get them in the kitchen and you see how they move in a kitchen, right? Like it is one thing to academically know something. And to me, one of the problems with the red seal exam is like, it is, in the end, it is kind of test based, right? If you are good at doing tests, then you probably can do your red seal. It doesn't mean that you're a great chef necessarily.
Right.
I feel like the red seal should integrate like a hands-on kind of set like part to it, like a 2-part, like a written and then a hands-on, like throw something at you just to see how you can.
A little black box.
Because that's real life. That's a little more real life.
Yeah, 100%. From what I understand, because I haven't sat down to write it yet, it's a multiple choice test. Is that correct? Yeah. I agree. Yeah, and that's one of the grumblings that I hear from other employees in the industry is that a lot of the students, apprenticeship or not, they struggle with working in the environments of a bakery, in production. Do you guys, working with high volume and stuff like that, have you guys had the same experience with our graduates of the college or even the apprenticeship program?
With like myself, my past, like I've come through high volume bakeries, and it is interesting to see someone who has not. And for instance, with cakes, like if I have an order for 6 of the same cakes, I'm making those all at once. But I've seen others approach it who haven't been through the apprenticeship program or more or less just did the regular program. When you say you have to do these all at once, they're kind of like, oh, but how does one do this? Like it is not a natural thing. And I feel that having that hands-on approach and learning the high volume, high production is very valuable. And it's not something that's commonly trained to somebody in like the regular program versus the apprenticeship, if they're lucky enough to have that exposure.
Right.
Yeah, I have to agree with Nickey. Like I didn't come from a high volume background. And so when I learned so much from Nickey in terms of like logistics and efficiencies. And it is difficult to learn those things until you have 1,000 cookies to decorate, right? Like you'd approach that very differently than a dozen cookies. And that's hard to replicate until you're in the workplace.
Yeah, that's true. But the industry just collectively doesn't require the apprenticeship, or even if we're being honest, there are some places that don't even require the college program to be. So what's the entry level requirements at Cake and Loaf if you want to work there?
So it really depends. I mean, we've had every level of experience from literally nothing, or like home bakers who, have been baking for 10 years at home but never made anything, up into people. So when you say what's required, like it changes a lot from position to position. If it is truly an entry level position, then nothing is required except a great attitude, because that's the point. We will train you. So we just went through a round of hiring and we hired some bakers, which I think maybe Nickey knows more about than I do because I wasn't actually on the ground, but the priority was experience. Like we needed people that could step into a kitchen and work alongside us and had worked in similar sized kitchens. So that they didn't need to have education, they needed to have education or experience, ideally both.
Yeah, the trainability mostly, and like the willingness and passion to learn new things.
Right. And
I mean, this is why it's so important to do practical interviews too, right? Is like some people can just move in a kitchen and some people can't. Like I assume you could eventually train anyone, maybe, although we've had some I would like shake my head at. But I do believe that there's some natural talent involved here, right? There's a passion, there's something that makes you want to be in that kitchen. And if you have that, then you can pretty much train the rest.
Right. So what role do you see the colleges and the apprenticeship, well, really the college programs playing in terms of providing the industry with workers, if really what you're looking for is experience?
I think that's why apprenticeship's so important. That's why co-ops are so important, because it is the marriage of education and experience that makes for a great chef, right? Like you can't just have one of those.
Right. So if the college program didn't have a co-op in it, a co-op built into that, how would you feel about like, hiring that student?
It would so depend on the individual. Like I couldn't just take your college education. It would most likely, if you are a person doing that, you already cook a lot, or you maybe have been baking with your grandma for 20 years. Like most people who love food.
Yeah.
So I think like the college's role to me is like provide hands-on experience and provide classes that actually make sense with how food is produced today. Like I can't speak to what's going on in colleges. We haven't been there for like 15
I'm like
almost 20 years. Yeah, 20 years. So I don't know what goes on the ground today, but I did find some of the stuff we did was a little old-fashioned, right? It wasn't really what people were serving in restaurants or in bakeries when I went out into the city. So just keeping up to date with that stuff's got to be important.
Yeah, for sure. Nickey, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I feel that as long as a college level course that is an apprenticeship has a placement component, I think there's a lot of value in that. I'm not sure, like with the Humber program, like how long the actual placements were. Do you remember how long the placements were, Josie?
Oh yeah, the Humber ones are great. The Humber placements were like 7 weeks full time or something like that, but like full time placements. So they were there all week, 40 hours. And you can learn a ton in that period of time. And we hired almost every single one of them because of it, right? It was like, wow, you're my coworker. I've been working with you 7 weeks. I don't want you to go away.
That's amazing. That's great exposure for the college certificate program.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wish that I don't know how this would ever be possible that the college programs could have some kind of harmonization and in this ideal fantasy world, I think they should be like 2 years with two co-ops built in, something like that. That would be
100%.
amazing.
It
Yeah.
is kind of amazing to think that these two systems compete, basically, the apprenticeship and the college stream. Like that makes no sense at all. They
It
are.
depends on where you are. They don't compete everywhere.
Mhm.
So like in Alberta, for example, or even in Vancouver, the students who go to VIU, Baking and
Yeah,
Pastry Arts, they get signed up as apprentices right away through their I believe it's a 1 year college program. Don't quote me on that. It might be 2 years, but they
yeah.
get signed up through the college as apprentices. So like I was saying, I wish the colleges could go through that harmonization and everybody get on the same page as to what they're offering and, have placements for that as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. Because you know, I'm not sure if Cake and Loaf has felt the pains of the labor crisis or like the labor shortage, but it's you can't argue that the colleges are taking up the responsibility of you know providing workers for people who are interested in going through that stream and entering the industry, and they seem to be full, but yet we still have some kind of shortage. And why is that? Do you guys have any thoughts on that at all?
We were talking about this the other day, actually,
Mm-hmm.
and it's more or less bridging the gap between the employer and the college itself,
Mm-hmm.
like having uh, like a level field where, for instance, if we were looking for an employee, a way for us to advertise that or potentially go in and have a conversation with a class or
Mm.
get some connection forming so we can open up a conversation about it. And say like, this is what the needs are, and hey, you're looking for jobs, we're looking for people to fill those amazing jobs.
Right. Like some kind of liaison through
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
between
Some sort of
industry and
platform.
yeah.
Yeah, we were been talking about like an incubator idea that like for us when we started our business, it was super frustrating because we just like there's so many things we didn't know. And the like entrepreneurship classes that we had taken in the college course weren't like specific enough to help us really.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was like some sort of incubator through the colleges that could help you hire your fellow students and get the basic books set up and get your like hooked up with a lawyer and stuff like that,
Right.
we could have really benefited from that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We made some costly mistakes that we didn't need to make.
Yep.
But also like it would help maintain that relationship between employers and colleges, right? Because you get this
100%.
built-in gratefulness.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good segue into talking about back. Have you guys heard of, I'm sure you've heard of the Baking Association of Canada?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a conversation with Martin yesterday, actually, the
Martin's
executive
the
director.
best.
So it's like small world stuff. They all lined up.
Oh, he's the best, honestly.
He
I
was
really,
lovely. Yeah.
really like Martin, and I think we're really lucky that he is
Mhm.
the general manager and executive director of Back right now because he's, education holds a special place in his heart, and he
Mhm.
really wants to do some good for us there. So, and maybe it'll be a repeat of what you guys talked about, but how do you guys think an association like Back should support a business like Cake and Loaf?
In a perfect world, I'm not sure anyone likes this recommendation, but in a perfect world for me, in organizations like that, where you have like a lot of different industry players
Yeah.
contributing, I would like to see the industry like that makes profit from those people. So the suppliers, flour suppliers, stuff like that,
Hmm.
would contribute some sort of funds, and that would lead to a position that gets filled by like an actual baker, like an on the ground baker that doesn't work for a large corporation.
Mm.
That can be represented at the BAC level. I feel like always the voices of the frontline workers kind of get buried in the people who can afford to lobby, right? So the
Mm.
large employers or the large suppliers,
Mm-hmm.
which like Martin's wonderful, and I think he is looking to get the voices of frontline people in there for sure, but
100%.
it's always a challenge because those bakers are busy and they need monetary incentive to be able to take the time to do that. They can't just volunteer time
Yep.
because they're often underpaid and busy for what they're doing.
And they have lives and families and bills.
Yeah, and they just like their position is not to lobby all day. There are people that get paid to do that, and like that's their whole job, right? I think like all the parallels we talked about already, right? Like incubating small businesses, like helping connect small businesses. Maybe Nickey wants to talk about this more, but like we didn't always know what to do and wish we could talk to somebody else.
Yeah, we just felt like we were kind of, well, not drowning, but like, we just didn't know who to reach out to ask simple questions like what POS system should we buy, instead of trying to find something that in the long run didn't work for us and was a huge expenditure. And we could have used that money to maybe hit living wage a little sooner, but like there were little complications like that. Like who do we ask for accounting? Who, even for instance, if I go back to POS systems, like they're not even geared to taxes that coincide with baking. Like when you're talking about 6 plus no tax, like we've changed so many little small companies into incorporating that into their whole back end, because we're like, well, you need this. And there's more bakeries coming out of the woodwork, and hopefully we've changed a little bit of that, but we definitely need somewhere that can help small businesses rise and occur all those small things that you kind of don't think about, but you are very important to the long run.
Right. And when let's dream a little bit. Ideally, that's something that you could turn to. What does it look like to you in your head?
So other organizations, like I know like it's not WSIB, the CIBF, I think has, or sorry, CFIB, the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, they have like a phone line that you can just call, and they will give you like HR advice or business advice or legal advice. It's kind of like a catch-all kind of situation.
Right.
It would be great to have kind of like a baker's concierge where it's like, I don't know how they would know all these things, but you could call them and be like, hey, like I'm thinking of buying a pie pastry roller. Like, where would I even find information about that? Is this something that like other industry people recommend? Or, you know, I'm starting my bakery for the first time. Do I focus on breads or pastries? Like, could you have demographic information for my neighborhood? I don't know how that person would exist, because it would be a very all-encompassing concierge. But I think even just like somebody who could connect you to other businesses in your area, or say like, oh, there actually is an organization, you know, an hour down the road that you could
like information, a switchboard.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. I'm going to make note of that, actually. Why not? Because, you know, I'm in communication with Martin too, and he's always open to hearing suggestions and good ideas. And I told him that I'm doing the podcast, and one of the main goals of the podcast is to hear all of these suggestions and see if we can actually do anything about it. Because there's a need. There's a cry for help, and from, you know, employers. And what is sad to me is from, you know, other instructors that I've spoken to, they say that there's like this huge demand on the programs. People are so interested in becoming bakers. Like they really want to do it, you know. I guess we have a lot of different things to thank for that. You know, Cake and Loaf, you guys make baking look so cool, and you just want to be a part of it. Nickey, you do a great job with the marketing, and then you have, you know, Netflix shows, and so it's been sensationalized, and there's so much, you know, attention on it. So how do we capitalize on that and make sure that there's enough of a support net to, you know, catch those people if they fall, you know, getting into the industry? Because a lot of them get disenchanted.
I was going to say the bigger thing is like, how do you stop them from getting disenchanted once they're in the industry?
Exactly.
Because like that is a very romantic view of what it is to work in a kitchen. And I think like we've talked about this a lot publicly. I mean, like we've seen some pretty terrible things in kitchens, and we are aware of pretty terrible things that happen in kitchens sometimes. And I think like the industry is getting better, and the more we talk about it, the less that those things happen. But you're going to enter this industry, and there's going to be, you know, you're probably going to be underpaid. You might be harassed or bullied. you are going to definitely work long hours. You are definitely going to have a sore body. So like for me, the real question is like, how do we change this industry so those are not all inevitable, right? Like those shouldn't be inevitable.
They shouldn't.
Some of them will be, you know, are you always going to use your body? I mean, absolutely. But there's ways to be ergonomic about it. Like there's ways to make sure employers are prioritizing that we're all going to get older and we need to age gracefully within our careers. So that's like the big questions that we think about all the time in our own business, and we hope the rest of the industry is moving towards.
Those are great questions. So how does Cake and Loaf, let's bring it back to you guys. How does Cake and Loaf address some of those, you know, on a day-to-day?
Yeah. So like ergonomics have been a big project this year, well, like the last 2 years, I guess. Because we're all getting older. I turned 40 this year, so I'm like personally invested in this. But
it's the new 20 days.
Yeah, exactly. We invested in a pastry roller for the first time this year, which I think has made a huge difference to everyone in the kitchen. Like for a long time, they were like, whatever, it doesn't bother us. Like it's a good workout for your arms. And then like, you know, after a couple years, you get sick of that workout. So that made a huge difference. Like, you know, standing desks and making sure the counter heights are appropriate and making sure we have standing mats. Like we just always try to make sure that ergonomically you're doing it the best way you can. Like I've heard Nickey lecture people about how they hold their piping bags, you know, to make sure that you can still do this in 20 years. And then that's when Nickey, like you said, are we building jobs or careers, right?
Yeah.
We're building careers.
That's a big component.
Yeah. Something that was a little bittersweet that came out of the pandemic is the fact that we no longer have a 5 a.m. baking shift. We decided to open our business Wednesday to Friday at like 12 p.m. instead of an 8 a.m. start. So our bakers are able to come in later and they have a lot more of a work-life balance now where they can sleep, essentially sleep. Like we've deleted that whole shift essentially. And I don't know if we'll ever go back to it.
All the overnight shifts. Because we just found it wasn't sustainable. Like no matter who was doing that shift, no matter what age they were, or you know, whatever their personal body looked like, after a couple of years of that night shift, everybody started burning out. And so it seemed unsustainable. That's not going to happen in every bakery. I mean, there's going to need to be night shifts sometimes, but we didn't need to, so we eliminated it.
That's awesome. You know, shifting from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m., making that decision. I'm not sure if people realize this, but it's a really gutsy move. Like that's not an easy thing to do. And so
we do gutsy.
Yeah, that was just telling you guys do gutsy stuff. And so how has it affected you guys negatively in any way doing that?
I'd say it shifted our product line dramatically. So we no longer have bread and we no longer have like that lunch component. We're right across from a school, there's businesses across the street, and people would come for lunch. Like we were their lunch go-to. So that's changed a lot. And I know they're pretty upset about that, but they're still very supportive customers and they come in for their coffee. We still have the espresso machine. We can't take away caffeine. I think that would be the end. Like that would be gutsy, beyond gutsy. But I feel like it was okay. Like, what were your thoughts on that, Josie?
We can't be everything to everyone. I think we like that you want to be as a business owner and you're constantly responding to customer needs. And we've been guilty of responding too much to customer needs in the past. And then it turns out to not be profitable or not be sustainable by the employees. But what really happened was like we shut down for 3 months at the beginning of the pandemic.
Right.
And I hope everyone is doing this. Like we really did sit down and honestly re-examine everything about the business and what was fundamental to who we were as a business and what wasn't fundamental. And we just took it one step at a time after that. So it was like, we only invited one employee at a time back. And what we made in the store depended on who came back, right? Like the person who made chicken pot pies came back. So now we made chicken pot pies. Like it was, it really was like that slow of a build. And then when we got to the point where it was like, okay, pretty much everyone who's coming back is going to be back. We asked them, you know, like, do you want to make bread? And they did not want to make bread. So some things were not economic decisions. Some of them were like decisions that we thought would help the flow of the kitchen or would mean that we could create better work-life balance. They're not decisions for profit, but I think like they lead to profit because they lead to stability and they lead to employees that like want to do their jobs and more specifically have some control, some agency over their job. And that works for us.
And so is bread gone forever?
I make bread when I come home.
Yeah.
So when I come back to Hamilton, I make bread now, mostly for my mom and sister, to be honest. But on the days, like the weeks that I'm there, I do a bread day. So you can order bread those weeks. And of course, all the recipes exist. We actually have like dozens of fantastic bread recipes that maybe could have another life in some other way, or maybe we will return to bread in the future. It's definitely not it's not a slam shut door, right? It's where we are right now.
Yeah. If anything, you guys seem to just adapt over and over and over again. So I'm sure it could be there one day again.
It's just cookies. We don't have to take it too seriously.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
And we're not changing our name to Cake and Sweet Loaf. It will remain Loaf.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, because Josie is still there. So it's, it's still gotta be Loaf. Yeah. That makes sense. So I think this is a great time to talk a little bit about the book, and how that came about and what it was like writing a cookbook.
So how it arose was, we've always discussed having a cookbook, but that was like way in the future. And then one day I got an email in my inbox from Penguin, from a publisher, and I thought it was spam. I kind of I disregarded it for a while. I kept it unread, but I was just like, I don't know what to do with this. And then I'm like, Josie, okay, look at this. What is this? And then we're like, you know what? Why not? Let's see what this is about. So we responded and then had a formal meeting at the bakery. And the publisher approached us with this book deal. And she's like, just put a proposal together. We have people in the office that really speak highly of you and your products. And we'd really like to just get into this and what can we do here to make this happen. So it kind of just evolved from that and rolled into what we have now.
That's amazing.
The proposal was a trip because I remember us sitting there deciding what to put in the proposal, because it wasn't, they didn't say here's your book deal. They said give us a proposal and we'll see if you're good enough. So that was a really humbling, the whole experience was super humbling. We both learned so many new skill sets for this. Just even deciding what to go in the book was a really hard decision because we're whittling down thousands of our favorite recipes to 85.
That's crazy. And in terms of, it's a brand new thing that you guys had never done before. Who did you turn to for support to, answer those tough questions? Or did you really just do it all yourself?
We went full in. Josie reached out to some friends for some writing assistance. I reached out to some friends for some camera gear and some assistance with taking pictures because I had only been taking pictures with my iPhone and doing some light editing, but now I had an actual camera in my hand and was taking manual shots, and that was a brand new thing for me, and using Photoshop and all these editing tools was brand new. And Josie killed it with writing. You were good with that, your words in the beginning, but I definitely saw you develop and turn into this brilliant writer.
Yeah,
I think we're both kind of the same, right? We didn't know what we were doing, and so at the beginning we were both really reaching out to friends constantly. The first couple recipe intros I wrote, I sent to 20 people to be like, do you like this? Does it mean anything? To people, what do you want to see in this? Because we love cookbooks, but we just had never really thought about how to convert our bakery to a cookbook. And I feel like you were the same, right, Nick? You asked so many people at the beginning, and by the time we were a few months into it, we were like, we got this. We have a flow.
We have an ebb and flow. Yep.
Yeah.
How long did it take? Sorry, go ahead.
Wow. Oh no, go right ahead.
How long did the whole process take before it was actually on the shelves?
Years.
Years.
So long. We first talked to Penguin in the end of 2019 when the bakery shut down for 3 months in March 2020. That's when we did like the bulk of our picture taking and like recipe editing, but we had been writing for a little bit by then. And then there's all this process that you go through with a publisher. So they, several times you go through and you edit the whole thing, and then there's like layout edits and there's final edits. So this is the longest thing we've ever done, for sure.
By far.
Honestly, it's quite the feat. Congratulations. It's on some people's bucket list to write a book, and be published. So you should be very, very proud. And I can't wait to go and get my copy. I want to actually come visit the bakery though. And without giving away my actual location, I am very close.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You'll have to go see Nickey. Yeah.
Yes, I will, for sure. I'm really excited to do that. Well, is there anything else that, going on at the bakery that you guys want to give a shout out?
There's always something going on at the bakery. We're big like holiday people. So as we roll through holidays, you always get, our special menu that comes out. You can't order for Mother's Day anymore. That is closed.
Yeah, closed
right?
today.
Because it's Tuesday today. Yeah. So the next big holiday we'll be celebrating is Father's Day, but you can order online every week. So you can see the whole menu and order online, or you can come into the shop Wednesday to Saturday and just we test your luck and see what's available.
Yeah. There's always something, honestly, and just follow their Instagram. You guys are on the ball with your Instagram, with your updates and stuff. You won't miss anything.
Worthy.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. If I'm not drooling while I'm taking the shot, I don't post it. Like it has to embody all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I like to always end off with this question. What is the one piece of advice you would give anyone entering this industry, entering the baking industry? What's one piece of advice you'd give them?
Oh, wow.
It doesn't have to be one piece of advice, but
I for me, it's definitely like do it because you love it. Like this is not an industry to be rich, but you will always have delicious food, and you will work with people who hold a lot of the same values as you. Like not everyone who goes to work gets to work alongside people who are like truly passionate about the same thing that they are. And I think that's what's magic about the culinary industry is like, we're really into what we do.
Yeah, because it's a tough environment. So like you're saying, you have to love it on some level to be there.
Yeah. And then the people make all the difference, right? So
How about you, Nickey?
Mine would be to entrepreneurs in general. It is a lot of work. And the people you surround yourself in the beginning and the ones that stay with you, they're the keepers. And you'll need that support, and don't be afraid to ask for help, and know that you will be wearing every single hat. You're gonna dive into HR, plumbing, electrical, renos, accounting, like all those things, but be excited about it and just fill that cup up because you'll appreciate it in the end.
Yeah, you'll just end up being a more well-rounded human being. Entrepreneurs, they can do it all, honestly. They have all the life skills because they had to have all the life skills. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk to, with me today. And any follow-up I'll that you guys have is something that you didn't get to mention or whatever, please just give me a shout out. And I also want to put it out there too. If there's anyone at the bakery that you think has a story that they would like to share with me about their education and their training or what it was like entering the industry, please let them get in touch with me because I'd love to sit down and chat with them too about how they became bakers.
Do you know who might be interesting to talk to?
Yeah.
Sorry, is it okay? Can I give you a name now?
Yeah, sure. If you're comfortable with it.
If Quinn wants to talk to you. So Quinn Pallister used to work for us, but she works for some big company now. But she's worked in a lot of different baking environments and is very well spoken and a very interesting person. Summer would know her too, I feel like.
Yeah, Summer knows her, I believe.
Okay,
Quinn Pallister. As someone who can, I think she was an apprentice. I'm pretty sure I remember signing the books.
Yes, yeah.
But she's definitely been through school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she what,
And
Nickey?
she's thinking about a red seal, but I'm not sure if that's still in the cards. But that's
Yeah,
a
I
good
just think she'd
question.
be
Like,
interesting
why?
because she's done a lot of different jobs. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll definitely follow up on that and maybe even ask Summer. If you guys don't have her contact information, I mean, I'll find it from.
I
No, I
can
can
talk to
say.
her.
Okay, yeah.
She's also
that would be great.
responsible for the viral cake.
The viral what?
Yes.
Sorry.
That was Quinn. You heard about our cake? The
Oh
cake
yes,
that
I
Cake Loaf
definitely
created.
did.
That was actually
Yeah.
that was Quinn's cake. Yeah. So when we
Nice.
first, I got the commission, we took it to Quinn because she has two moms. That was one of the reasons I wanted someone like from the community
Mhm.
to make the cake. It felt weird for us to make it.
Yeah.
So she's just like such an interesting person.
Sure, yeah, I'd love to sit down and chat with her. That'd be great. And
Yeah.
I'll also include, the link to Cake and Loaf website and where they can get the cookbook as well, all in the description of this episode. And yeah, just thanks again, you guys, for taking the time. Honestly, I know how busy you are, so I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great chat.
Thanks. Yeah. I hope you
No
guys
problem.
enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll
Thank
keep
you.
in touch.
You too.
Yeah. You too.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.